Hi and welcome to another edition of the Droopy Dog Gamer. It's Retro Games Week this week on the PlayStation Store. I'm Leighton. If you like our content, please remember to hit like and subscribe. It really helps out our channel. Today we're looking at the best games that you can buy in the sale for under £10 on the PlayStation Store. Roll the credits! Yes, it's Retro Week on the PlayStation Store, with a load of games to fill you full of warm, fizzy nostalgia. But nostalgia is a funny thing. It's a bit like looking back at an ex on Facebook. You can look back and think, did you really look that bad? And that's the same with some of these games. Some of them are not so good when you look back. But we're looking at the best games on offer for your hard-earned money. We begin with Shadow of the Beast. Shadow of the Beast is $11.99 reduced to £5.63. It's an absolute gore fest of a platformer from 1989. Yes, sadly I am old enough to remember the original on the Commodore Amiga by a company called Psygnosis. It was brilliant back then, and this edition on the PlayStation Store, which is from 2016, is really good. The fighting mechanics, although simple, are really quite satisfying. At the game's original price of $11.99, I probably wouldn't touch it, but at this offer, £5.63, yeah, it's definitely worth a go. The next game needs no introduction. It is the daddy of video games, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the game that has caused 1,000 memes on the internet and is still as strong today as the day it came out. There's a little bit off of this game and it's definitely worth picking up if you've not got it. In this time of lockdown, if you're short and bored of games, you can always have a go through San Andreas. The story is sublime, the characters are brilliant. If you've missed it, what planet have you been on? You've got to have played San Andreas. Reduced from $11.99 down to £8.03. Yes, you can pick the disc version up on eBay, probably as cheap, but if you're thinking about getting a PlayStation 5 and you might end up with a PlayStation 5 Digital Edition, now's a cheaper time as any to pick it up from the PlayStation Store. The next game on my list is Doom 3, regarded by the fans as a little bit of the black sheep of the game series. This game was a little bit more cinematic than the previous two, but the level of gore, violence and sheer chaos was just the same as ever. The storyline can get a little bit thin at times and is a little bit slow and dragging, but the action remains the same throughout the game. We see a lot of the characters from the first two games, the controls are as tight as ever, and it's a good fun first person shoot 'em up. Reduced from $7.99 down to $3.99 on the PlayStation Store until the 10th of February, it's definitely worth picking up. Lara Croft. Oh, Lara Croft. Now, if, like me, you're in your 30s and 40s, how many of you had the poster of lovely Lara on your bedroom wall? Now you can relive all those teenage fantasies with Lara Croft, the Tomb Raider, the Definitive Edition. The full price on the PlayStation Store is $15.99. It's been reduced to the price of a cup of coffee, £2.39. The Definitive Edition includes all the main storyline from Shadow of the Tomb Raider, plus the Forge, the Pillar, the Nightmare levels, the Price of Survival, the Serpent's Heart, the Grand Cayman and the Path Home. It really is superb value. Definitely one to pick up while it's on sale. Now, although I did say games for under a tenner, I couldn't resist just sneaking this one in. Wipeout, the Amiga edition, is on offer at the moment, reduced from $29.99 all the way down to £11.09. This is a high definition remaster that was made just a couple of years ago on the PlayStation 4. It's on sale at the moment. Now, the reason I love Wipeout, it brings back a lot of nostalgic memories from when the original PlayStation was launched. Back in 1995, whilst the Nintendo 64 had GoldenEye, PlayStation was marketing it at a much more mature audience, even putting PlayStation consoles in fashionable London nightclubs. Yes, believe it or not, you could walk into a nightclub and see 4 or 5 PlayStations with screens all playing Wipeout. It was an unreal time, and definitely the first time we started seeing games consoles aimed at a mainstream audience. Playing Wipeout in lovely high definition with the glorious colours, the speed and everything else, it brings back a lot of nice memories for me. And for just a smidgen over that £10 mark, yes, I definitely would pick up this game. Over the years, Sony has tried desperately to snatch the crown from Nintendo for the ultimate platforming character. Whilst Sega had Sonic, Nintendo has the little jolly plumber Mario. Sony has tried with different IPs, but never quite taken the crown from the kings. I think this one was quite an underestimated game at the time, Ape Escape on the PlayStation 2. Now it's available on the PlayStation Store, reduced from $7.99 all the way down to $3.99. It's a good fun game, it'll keep the kids entertained for a few hours during lockdown, and it's a good offer at $3.99. Take me down to Paradise City where the cars are fast and the girls are pretty. Yes, I know that's not the lyrics by Guns N' Roses, but it should have been, because every time I hear that song I now think of Burnout Paradise Remastered. This is definitely my game of the week. It's been reduced from $17.99 all the way down to £7.19 on the store, right up until the 10th of February. Completely remastered, there's hours of fun in this game. None of the cars are licensed. It's not serious at all. It's a fun arcade racer. Next to the Need for Speed Most Wanted, this is probably one of the most iconic racing games on a games console. If you buy this, if you've never heard of it, and you go out and buy it, you will not regret this game. The crashes are unbelievable. None of the cars are licensed, so they're fully destructive. In short, this game is a masterpiece. You will not regret buying this game. So if you're old as me, you will remember the 16-bit era. What a glorious time for video games. This was when the turf wars between the consoles really were in force. You were either on Nintendo's side or Sega's side. Nintendo, you had the Super Nintendo, the SNES, the Famicom as it was known in Japan. On the other side, you had the Sega Mega Drive. It was prehistoric times. It was awful. Well, actually, it wasn't that awful. It was quite a fun time. And back then, the only way to find out information about your favourite video games, news, reviews and all that kind of thing was to buy the monthly magazines. You'd wait for Games Master or Ace, who remembers Ace Computer Magazine, and you flick through it and find out all the favourite games and everything else, and you'd see what was coming from Japan. A lot of games always came out in Japan earlier than it came over to Europe. If you went into the shops, you would only see the Nintendo or the Mega Drive. That was all you had on offer. But if you looked in these magazines and looked at the back pages, you would see an advert for this elusive console called the Neo Geo. Nobody I know ever had it. It was for the extreme rich kids. The console launched, I think, in the UK for around £500. And the games, you could find them for about £150 each. Now, I'm just converting it in today's terms, you'd probably be looking at about £200 a game. The console would probably, by the time you bought the two joysticks, you get two joysticks, and the console would probably be in today's equivalent of about £1,100. Yeah, all of a sudden the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X look incredibly cheap. Now, the reason of the price of this Neo Geo, it was made by a company called SNK, and they produced arcade machines. Back in the day, if you wanted to play the best edition of a game, you played it in the arcades. The arcades always had superior graphics, superior sounds, and then it was ported to games consoles such as the SNES and the Mega Drive, and we always kind of got diluted graphics. The sound was never quite as beefy, but we enjoyed them. It was good. Just take a look at Street Fighter 2 and you'll see that the arcade version looked a lot better than the SNES version. Now, the SNK games slightly differed to what was on offer on the Nintendo and the Mega Drive. On the Sega system and on the Nintendo, you had Street Fighter 2. Yes, it was the daddy of fighting games, but the games on the Neo Geo, you just longed to play them. The graphics looked amazing. It was literally an arcade cabinet converted into a console, and it looked awesome. And I had to wait many years until I finally got a Neo Geo. This month there are several Neo Geo games on offer. If you're not into the retro scene and you don't own any retro consoles or anything like that, it's a good opportunity this month to pick up a couple of games that I recommend. During the 16-bit era, fighting games and kung fu games were the kings of the arcade. Obviously you had Street Fighter 2. There was also a game by SNK called The King of Fighters. They did 4 or 5 games in this series, but the kings of them were either King of Fighters 97 or King of Fighters 98. both are on offer on the PlayStation Store this month. Reduced from £11.99, reduced all the way down to £2.39. So can you believe that? A game that cost probably about £150 back in the day, which is probably the equivalent of £250 today, you could pick it up for £2.39. Yes, I'm excited because I'm a retro games fan. Realistically, you'll probably look at this game now and think, nah, I'll go back to Mortal Kombat 11, but it will give you a couple of hours good gameplay. It was one of the most balanced fighting games ever created. The characters are a joy. It is pure 90s nostalgia. I can't decide which is the best between 1997 and 1998 on these games. I like them both. At that price, I'd pick both of them up. So as well as King of the Fighters, there are a few other Neo Geo games this month that you can look at. Art of Fighting is another one. Samurai Showdown is another great game on the Neo Geo, definitely worth looking at. But King of the Fighters for me was the ultimate. That was the best fighting game on the Neo Geo. Another great game series on the Neo Geo was the Metal Slug series. The Metal Slug was a side-scrolling action, combat, guns, blazing, shooting, no strategy whatsoever. You just blasted your way through the whole game. It was really good fun. There are a couple of games on offer this month on the PlayStation Store. There's Metal Slug XX, which was a later game I never really took to. As a pure fan of retro games, it wasn't my favourite. The game I would go for on the PlayStation Store is Metal Slug 3. Now these Neo Geo games on the PlayStation Store, in my opinion, always the prices are a little bit too high. It's normally priced at around £9.49. This month it's reduced all the way down to £1.89. Less than a cup of coffee. The game will last you a couple of hours, but it is great fun and you can blast your way through. If you're a fan of all the late 80s action heroes like Rambo and Commando, you can relive that nostalgia with this game. So that just about concludes all the action games this month that I would go for on the PlayStation Store. Each of those Neo Geo games you'll probably play for an hour or so and put down, but these next couple of games should last you a good, you could put hours and hours into them. Harvest Moon originally made its first appearance back on the Super Nintendo back in 1996. It revolutionised video games. This was the very first slow life simulation, farming simulation game we had ever seen. Japanese absolutely went mad for it and the game sold out and wasn't available in stores for months when it first appeared. Some of the Harvest Moon games are so sought after by collectors that unsealed versions of the Super Nintendo games sell for almost $4,000 on eBay. It really has a massive cult following. Not all the games in this series have been brilliant, but the PlayStation 2 editions were really quite good fun. You can pick up Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life on the PlayStation Store this month, reduced from £11.99 all the way down to £3.59. You can also pick up Save the Homeland, which was a later edition of the game, for £3.59. You can pick both games up for a tenner and you can sink hours and hours into building up your farm, feeding the chickens, watering the plants. It really is absolutely brilliant, this game. Not to be missed, definitely worth a try at that sort of price. So that just about concludes the PlayStation Store games on offer this month. It's not the best sale I've ever seen, but there's definitely fun to be had and some bargains to be found if you look hard enough. We'll be back next time with a full review of Destruction All-Stars, which is on the PlayStation 5. It's a game that should have been released on launch, but it was delayed. I think Sony were originally planning to give the game away for free anyway, but it's a nice surprise that if you've got a PlayStation 5, you're going to get the game for free this February as a PlayStation Plus subscriber. We'll be back again with a full review of that game next time. If you like our content, please remember to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel to grow. I'm Leighton. Hope you've enjoyed watching. We'll see you next time on the Droopy Dog Gamer.